Oh, check it out, check it out. Guess what time it is? It's the Higher Ground Show with Dr. Hope. When you hear Stevie Wonder Higher Ground,
That's
you
a good
know
one.
what time it is. It is Higher Ground with Dr. Hope, one of the best YouTube TV podcast shows in the nation. You know, when we talk about it, we big on trauma, childhood trauma, bullying prevention, social justice, you name it, we talk about it. Yeah, you're not seeing a ghost. That's right. You're seeing these two ladies, governing board members of TUSD, and we just excited to have them on with us on today. I always say every morning, this is your time to get your Fruit Loops, Corn Flakes, Frosted Flakes, Rice Krispies, Apple Jacks, Captain Crunch, whatever is your cereal. And if you don't like cold cereal, go get you some cream of wheat and some oatmeal because it's time to get down with the higher ground. Listen, thank you for all of our fans and all of our supporters. That's about the movement of healing. You guys know I'm big on trauma. I'm a traumatologist. I'm a trauma expert, and so I work with school districts throughout the nation, including TUSD. Some of you guys are even more familiar with my bullying prevention work. But now today, when we look at bullying, it's still traumatic. It's some kids that have PTSD when they're being picked on, when they're being victims, even with cyberbullying and all these new things that we're dealing with technology. So we're just excited again today. I got two guests, so I'm not going to talk that much. But I'm just so excited to kick off our show with our TUSD, some of our TUSD governing board. Our former president and current president of the board is with us. And Alina is also running for a seat for the Pima County Board of Supervisors. And so we're talking about some major stuff. We also know that our students have been impacted by early developmental trauma. I think we could have done better nationally and locally on helping kids with chronic stress, and trying to get more innovative in regards to helping kids that's going through a lot of pain and brokenness. But now these days, when I look at trauma in my work, now I'm trying to define a program that how we address trauma for the entire school community. And what I mean by that is no longer we just have to look at trauma for as kids, but now we have to look at trauma for as our educators, for as our certified and classified staff, because secondary trauma is so intrusive that it's impacting our educators, and it's impacting our staff and our paraprofessionals. And so we also have to now look at how do we support principals? How do we support bus drivers? How do we support counselors as well as educators when it comes to chronic stress? And what is that going to look like? And I just have a strong feeling, along with my other colleagues that's in the mental health game and the mental health profession, that we really believe that trauma and chronic stress is going to be higher. One, because we just had systemic issues of chronic stress anyway, but now with the pandemic, now with the grief and loss, now that we have the financial collapse, we're talking about over 30 million Americans have filed for unemployment. We're talking about right now, and we still have a few more months to go. So just imagine by August what the unemployment rate can look like and how that's going to impact families. That may mean that we may have more Title I schools. More schools may need to be using those fundings for free and reduced lunch. And so yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. So we have our special guest with us, Krista Foster, president of Tucson Unified School District's governing board, and she's also an educator as well with Sunnyside School District. Tells Steve Holmes I said hello. And we have the illustrious Adelina Grahova. I'm trying to roll my your last name like you guys do it. It sounds so just American. I say Grahova, but you guys said it's such with this swag with it. So I'm trying to learn it. But You know who she is, a longtime governing board member, former president, doing some great things with Pima prevention, also doing some great things with Pima County Teen Court. She also helped me get an opportunity to serve in that capacity a few times. And she's going to be running for County Board of Supervisors. And that's, we're going to give you a chance to really just talk about that. Why is that important? A lot of times, believe it or not, a lot of people see Board of Supervisors, but they don't really understand its capacity and how important it is to be engaged with county affairs. And so, welcome to Higher Ground. We thank you for being with us. So let's talk. Let's have some great conversations. One day maybe we can now bring Dr. Trio with us so we can also just have some engaging conversations as well. But what happens when trauma comes to school? I'm sure you guys seen that. You've seen the impact, especially when we start talking about poor children and children of color. We also see disparities in a lot of these issues and equity and all of that. So, uh, Crystal Foster, as an educator and as our president of the governing board, to start with you. So, what happens when trauma comes to school? Well, what have you seen? If you have some more technology issues?
She's having some technology issues. She's fine, and then all of a sudden it'll come on mute.
All right, so we'll switch to Adelita, and then we come back.
Okay. So I think what we're going to see a lot more of is a lot more family stress. And so what we were trying to do as a district is figure out a way to budget for more counselors and more social workers to try to address a lot of the needs that you can't always address in a classroom, with the teacher and her kind of divided attention. And so one of the issues I think that we're going to have a hard time with is trying to balance all of the great needs with the issues that the fact that we can't afford everything. And so how to do that is going to be something that we're really working on. Started talking about it last meeting. We're going to start to talk about it next week, and just to try to prioritize. We had social workers as a priority, and now we have we've spent about almost $9 million on services during this pandemic, and making sure that our kids are eating. And so, those are priorities. And so how to balance all of it with the fact that you can't eat. I mean, if you can't eat, you don't have nutrition, you don't have a way to purchase food for your family, that's a huge stressor. And I think we're going to see a lot more families that are really struggling, trying to stay together during this really difficult time.
Yeah, most definitely. I think you're right on point with that. And chronic stress is most definitely going to be higher, and poverty can be even a more systemic issue with many of our families. We most definitely appreciate you guys making sure that food services is out feeding our kiddos in different parts of the neighborhood, being able to get that food. Because let me tell you right now, my kids eat too much. I can't wait to school start because I'm spending so much money on groceries. I don't know what y'all look like, but my kids, they eat when they ain't hungry. It's just they see it. They just bored. So they say, you know what? I ain't got nothing to do. Let's eat.
Yeah. My kids open the fridge and look at it like it's a TV. Like, I'm like, are you hungry? I'm looking to see what looks at me. So I can't really judge them. But, I think that for families who are struggling with paying bills and mortgages and rent and not having income, we're hoping that this is one small thing during the day that is Monday through Friday that can help a family, and thousands of meals are being distributed every day.
Awesome.
Tens of thousands of meals. Mm-hmm.
Wow! I like that. We appreciate that. Krista, are you okay now?
I am just jumping in and out of this session with you guys because.
All right.
Because then the sound goes away, and then I just jump. I've tried to fix it, so I don't know what was just said, but you can't teach kids if they're hungry. You can't teach kids if they're hurting. And I know that school for so many kids is a stable place. for them. It's a constant in their lives, and their teachers are a constant for them. And this has been such a disruption for so many students. I was in an IEP meeting last week.
Uh-oh, thank you.
Gone.
I think we lost you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We lost you.
I lost you. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. I wonder if she got a reboot or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that what she's talking about is when we have I know some children who are school age children, K-5, that their parents had to work, that they were on the front lines of working at a grocery store or a police officer, and they had to navigate getting back in school online by themselves. And that is amazing to me because I have some older kids, and it was a hard struggle for me. So I can imagine being 11 and figuring it out by yourself, but some of our kids did and were able to do it.
So I appreciate you talking about, getting more counselors and more social workers. I had just did a trauma training with African American Student Services on I did 4 days. And so I spent a lot of time because one of the things I was seeing was, and especially even my national work, was I was seeing more teachers and more staff was really suffering from compassion fatigue and burnout, especially, and obviously that also has a lot to do with the dynamics of the school, certain schools, challenging schools, alternative schools. But one of the things was I see a lot of educators that were so traumatized that they were experiencing burnout in the middle of the semester, and they wasn't really sure how mentally, emotionally, how they were going to make it to the end, to a winter break or a spring break. And one of the things that sure is that when we look at trauma and chronic stress, that we're looking at the entire school community, not just the student, but looking at staff, looking at parents. How do we support parents? What kind of coping and life skills can they get to help them shift even their households to be more healthy spaces for our children when they come back home? So I appreciate the fact that you guys are talking about social workers and counselors, because one of my recommendations and concerns were is that I think we need more counselors. We need to put more funding into our counselors at schools. And I understand it's been a challenge. And some counselors were doing a lot of credit work and credit recovery work and not enough social emotional support. And also when we get these counselors, we're looking at their job description to make sure that we're supporting the student community in those most important areas. Because if trauma is so intrusive, which it is, and the science showing, the data showing, you have no cognition or lack of cognition in executive function. That means kids are going to struggle in the classroom. It also means your classroom management is going to be challenged because of behavior issues. And when you have all of these things going on, you're barely getting instruction, and it's very frustrating for the educators in the room. So let's talk about a little bit more about the social worker and the counselor. Why is that important? Um, what kind of strategy are you trying to put as far as funding to make that happen? And why should we have social workers and counselors working with kids? So, Crystal, while we have you,
Right.
I'll throw it at you.
Right. And so, we know that teachers, first and foremost, are supposed to teach, right? But we also know you can't teach if kids aren't ready to learn. And we know that the funding is such an issue in public education, especially in Arizona. And so we have to fight for every single thing that we need in our budget. And something that was so evident with the COVID shutdown is the technology, right? And that we didn't have technology for every.
There she goes. We didn't have technology for everybody, and that was a really big issue. Go ahead, Kate. Go ahead. I was just going to chime in and finish your sentence, Crystal. I think you're back. No. So the issue that we had is that the divide, the technical divide, was huge for our families. We had some families that were, had maybe a laptop or had a tablet or some telephone, but didn't have any internet access. And so we were trying to work with different internet providers to provide, so the district would pay for the internet. The problem is that the providers wouldn't allow the district to pay for the internet if that family had a previous debt. with them. So if you had a balance with any of these internet providers, I mean, we can't pay for that. And so that was also an issue. And then you have a broadband issue where even where I live, I'm in Mission and Ajo, which is right, I think, pretty close to the center of town.
Yeah.
Broadband issue for us was that Cox and what was the other, Infinity, one of those other providers had already expended all their broadband. So we had to come up with something else, which is going to be a lot more costly. And it ended up being a lot more costly. So fortunately, we were in the position, but what about the kids that live 2 doors down from us that didn't have that option? And so that was a problem. And, you know, both me and my husband work. We have 2 laptops at home and a tablet, and we still needed to borrow from TUSD because we have 3 kids on Zoom calls all day long. And, you know, it was just really just to get everyone there. I mean, my sons, they're a great teacher. It wasn't until about the 3rd week of online school that she was able to at least connect with every one of her kids and see them. And that's pretty significant. So we're in a really different position in TUSD because even at the schools that are not considered Title I schools, they still had really some real big hurdles to jump over.
Wow.
And we also had teachers that don't have laptops. I mean, you know, we keep talking about the situations for our students, but we had a lot of teachers and staff that didn't have the internet connection, nor did they have the technology to be able to go home to teach at home. So we had to deal with many fronts.
So Dr. Holt, I tried another browser.
Oh, you tried another browser?
You told me which one to try, and I'm gave up. I'm gonna try a different one. So let's see how long I can stay in on this one.
Okay. So let's throw it back at you. So yeah, we want to allow you to finish your statement, what you're saying.
Well, just to that, I mean, for me, my biggest aha was that the technology divide is the achievement gap, right? And we've seen that when parents have those resources at home, have family who can pitch in and help and support, I mean, those kids thrived in a different way. I don't know if thrive is the right word, but I mean, the importance that school, really child care, right? We have parents, a lot of working families who have depend on us to take care of their kiddos so that they can work and sustain their families. And not everybody has the luxury of
She lost her. Yeah.
You're right on mute.
No, they don't have the option. And I think that's the thing that we heard really loud and clear. And even I have a friend who has 3 school-age children, and her husband worked every morning. And so she was trying to navigate her working from home plus balancing 3 different class schedules. And it's been a real hardship for a lot of families. And some families just said, you know what, I'll join when we can, but really it's difficult. And so I appreciate that. And I think that we're going to see more and more of that. And as we move towards August, when, you know, I was at line at Walgreens, and this guy said, aren't you just glad, as I'm wearing my mask and my gloves and the whole 9, right? He's like, aren't you just glad that this is over? And I just looked at him and thought, it's not over. This is, we're going to have another spike because people think it's over just because, you know, they drive down the street and the bar's open, and, you know, people are in line at the stores and people can sit down and have a meal. There's a sense of, oh, great, now we're back to normal. And we haven't in Pima County defined what that new normal is going to look like. And until we do and give really clear direction, we're going to see another spike. And so I'm anticipating, unfortunately, in 2 weeks, it'll be pretty significant. End of June, we'll probably see another spike. And then then we're in the position of having to try to figure out, can we open our school buildings to people and expose our children, and our staff? So I don't know what it's going to look like, but that was my fear when we reopened. Like, if we reopen right now, we're not going to open school. Right. I mean, that's kind of the situation that I feel we're in. And unfortunately, we're moving forward. So with very little direction, very real. And it's not just the county. It's not local. It's the state. The state refused to say, you have to wear a face covering. And let me explain why. And they haven't done that. So here we are. So,
because I did get some comments on live right now about they want to hear a little bit more on the social workers. Christina Austin, which is one of my sis in the community. Was happy to hear a little bit more about the social workers. So while they're online listening in, so what is that looking like for the district as far as getting more social workers to help out with kids with trauma and chronic stress? Well, Crystal, while we have you.
We'll try, man. I'm so sorry about this. You know,
No, it's okay.
I think we know that the differences in the kind of computer I'm using and the ones you guys are using. I'm not going
Okay.
to names right now, but I think that's the difference.
Okay.
So we increased the number of social workers last year. You know, we are right now in budget negotiations. We're trying to figure out what our money is right now. I mean, we all have our priorities, what we know we need to spend money on, and from that bucket of what we need to spend money on, we don't have the luxury to spend it on all of that. But right
Right.
now, so many unknowns in our budget. You know, we spent 12.5 million on feeding kids and on technology at this COVID moment, before COVID right now. And so we're waiting to hear. I heard Adelita talk about waiting to hear from the state and their federal funds coming with the CARE Act for
Okay.
COVID recovery. But we have to depend on Governor Ducey to use that money for public education, right? That's
Okay.
is he going?
Okay.
Is he going to do that? We don't know. I mean, we can hope, but based on the way he spent money before, when he has the discretion, very little of it goes to public schools like TUSD.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. So, as a governing board member, what do you think when school starts at? One, do you think we're going to are we going to open back up in-person instruction, or you think perhaps still that part of the first semester we could still be doing a lot of virtual instruction?
So we need direction from the CDC. We absolutely.
Okay.
This is a decision the school board should be making across the state independently by
Okay.
themselves with all their political. I mean, we really need direction, and then all schools have to follow that direction, right? And what are the parameters? What is social distancing? What are the masks or no masks, right? And we have to find out what is the definition of attendance, right? Our state has to come together and say, right now there's a fine definition of seat time for attendance. We can't. We have to make that much more wide, right? What is
Yeah.
the Zoom meetings count as attendance, right? And we
Okay.
have to really figure out the budget, because right now we budget the state budget schools for current year funding. Like our enrollment is going to be so we have and how is that enrollment even being counted?
Yeah.
There's so many things that we're waiting for the state to decide right now, and we don't have the luxury to make decisions, or are we prepared to make decisions without that guidance from the state?
Wow. Wow. Well, what do you think, Miss Adelina?
So I think that we're going to be talking about it at the next meeting on what it could look like, because we have to come up with scenarios until we get definitive direction, because they could tell us this is what we're going to do and we have to be ready to implement. And so is it going to be a combination of, for families who don't feel comfortable with their kids going to school? I mean, that's going to be a reality. We were down 1,300 kindergartners, just kinder.
Wow.
It's because if I'm a parent of a 5-year-old, do I want to pick this year as the year to start my kid up in school? This might not be the year. And so what does that look like? And so I think that we have to rethink what that's going to be. I mean, could it be a classroom where we have some students in a classroom Monday, Wednesday, and the other half on Tuesday, Thursday? I don't know, because a lot of that has to do with capacity. I mean, we see restaurants right now that you're limited to 50. Our schools are huge, but does that mean that we can fill them to half capacity and still be in line? I mean, there's just a lot of unknowns. So I'm hoping that we get a lot more direction in June, July, as other school districts across the country and even in the nation are opening up. I saw a little video of what it looked like in China, I believe, and they had a way to, check the temperature, and the child just puts their little face in and they get all sprayed down. I mean, I don't know if that's what it's going to look like here, but I think that we're going to be looking to other school systems that are opening before we do, just to see what it looks like.
Wow, wow, interesting. So why, that's not just local, but nationally. And Krista, most definitely you can chime on this because you are an educator. Um,
And I'm here. You can hear
yeah,
me.
yeah, I'm glad you're here. Why is it hard to? Why is it hard for recruiting, getting more teachers? A lot of schools are really struggling. A lot of districts are struggling getting certified teachers, qualified teachers, master teachers. Um, and I know I've seen many different HR hiring strategies to attract more teachers. We see more classrooms with long-term subs. So, as from the board's perspective, what do you think is contributing to that, and what are some plans that you're doing uh, to improve those issues?
So I think it's so many aspects. There's so many areas. I think about how much money young people have to spend to go to college right now, and if you have
Yeah,
to pay back that amount of money for college loans, you can't afford to become a teacher, right? And so we know that across the nation, in college preparation or teacher prep programs have dropped because people know that they won't be able to pay back those loans. So that's an issue. And then, if and if teacher pay across the nation has been an issue. Oh my gosh, absolutely, it's been an issue. We know that our teachers have to have second jobs. And I don't know how you do this job that is a 24/7 job. Like right now, I was talking to a friend yesterday who has her 7 p.m. Zoom meetings with her third grader, right? You can't
right.
do a second job and be a classroom teacher. It's just impossible. And so
Wow.
our board, I don't know how people do it. Like to really do due diligence to the planning and the preparation, one-on-one attention that 28 or 30 little kiddos need. How do you do that and also have a job in the evening? And so, I mean, we're recruiting where we're trying, we try to bring people. And, I think it's a question for all of us in public education. I think elected school board members that values teacher pay, doing what we can for teacher pay, and think about all that we're juggling with COVID funds and feeding 80,000 kids across this city. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot for us to make better, and at least we have people who value it and are fighting with everybody in the community.
All right, Adelita.
Yeah, I think one of the issues is the fact that, you can make more money as a manager at Circle K than you
Yeah.
can as a teacher. And that is value. That's a value that our communities put on it. That's a
Wow.
value that our nations put on it. If we were to say, a starting teacher is going to make 65,000 a year, we wouldn't have an issue with getting teachers, qualified teachers in our classroom, because we would have 5 or 6 people wanting for that open position at a school, as opposed to starting the school with a long-term sub. It's someone who'd already retired and knows that they're needed, so they come back. That to me is a real issue. I mean, I had a friend who was in school in elementary education and had her second job,
Wow.
working at Costco, and was making more money there in her third year than she would be making as a 10-year teacher in any district. It doesn't, it's the unfortunate thing is that we all try to look and see if we're in line with what other districts are paying, but quite frankly, it's like a couple thousand here and there. It's like a couple $100 here and there. We as a state and as a country don't value teachers based on what we're compensating them.
And I don't even know the answer. So, what is the average teacher salary for our area?
I would say 45, the average, or if you're talking how much experience you've had, right? I mean, if
Okay.
we're average, I would say about 45.
Wow. Okay. So, because one of the things I saw in my field dealing with trauma, we also see in retention, so in attrition. So we have, especially 4 year, I mean, first year teachers coming out of college. We're seeing 3 to 5 years, they're out. They're like, I'm done. I'm going back and I'm going to be an RN. Going to make three
Nothing.
times more the money and not deal with the stress and all of the heartache that comes. with this job? Are you guys seeing some of that as well being an issue?
We know
Right.
that 50% of teachers leave, and this is nationwide, 50% leave after within the first 5 years.
That's
And I
right.
think it's economic stress, and it's the stress of the trauma of who you're taking care of, and that you're not just educating kids, you're taking care of so much, you're serving so many roles of counselor, of social worker, of parent at times, right? And
Yeah.
so it's a calling. It is an absolute
Yes,
calling
right.
to,
It is.
and it's a love-hate relationship, right?
I well
Yeah.
think about the fact that you can't leave this job at the end of the day. You don't walk to your car and leave it. You're worried about that baby who's not going to eat. You're worried about that family who was going to get evicted. I mean, that burden, it weighs on you as a
Yeah.
person. That's why I think we see counselors that are and social workers and psychiatrists and people that are working in our school systems. And even like if you think of other institutions like veterans services, that kind of thing, you see that kind of turnover with first year, second year people, because it's just overwhelming. I mean, why you carry that with you and try to fix everything, and I just don't, no one person can do it. And I think that that's one of the big reasons. It's like, I could go get a job, being the manager at some convenience store
Yeah.
and not have to worry about that kind of stuff. I don't
Right.
have to worry about, I see my kids and, they need new shoes. Let me go buy them because I know that they don't want to ask anybody. Those
Wow.
are the problems that our teachers face every day. And I think that that really wears on somebody.
And really, across the nation for years, it's really been a job that people do if they already have enough money, right? And we know that we need to connect with kids of poverty and kids of color, right? And we need to attract teachers of color to work with
Yeah.
all of our students. And it's by and far, it's a job for a lot of young white women, right?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
come, and I mean, it's not, I don't want to like qualify it that it's that easy, cut and dry, but if somebody's paying for your college and you're not going to have student loans on the other side, and you're already in a comfortable position, unfortunately, and this has been for years and years, that's teaching is something you get to do. And I would like it to be something that is a calling that all people can do, and because all kids, we serve all kids, and we need all kind of people to teach those kids.
No, you bring up a great point because I was just about to think. I was thinking of that. When it comes to children of color, what do you guys think as governing board members and as an educator or professional in education? What do you guys think the importance of Black and brown kids seeing educators that look like them, not just educators, but administrators? We still have a low percentage of Black principals, where black kids can look at leadership and say, okay, I think I can be an administrator. I would like to be an administrator. But unfortunately, we don't see a lot of that. So what do you think is the importance of seeing Black and brown kids, seeing educators and administrators, and a Black superintendent?
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about having big visions. Where I'm from Flint, Michigan, so I was used to seeing a Black superintendent, a Black mayor, African Americans in senior leadership, cabinet levels type of responsibility. And what do you guys think is the importance of that?
I think it's really important, but I also think that you have to have a board that values that. And
Yeah.
so if you look at the history of our district, for the most part, the board members have been Caucasian. And so every now and again, every year, you'll get somebody of color, but I think that it has to be a priority that is set by that board. And you need more and more people to run. And it is a
Yeah.
tough position. I mean, you don't get opportunities in your professional life if you're doing this, because technically you already have another part-time job.
Right.
But you also, I think it's important that you look to try to get people to run. And I know that Crystal and I have really tried to get, more women of color to run. And when you look at the kind of attacks that both all of us have to deal with, but more
Yeah.
if you're female, that kind of thing. When you look at it, I'm like, what crazy person would want to, walk away from their family and their home and their life to, be ridiculed for stuff that you have no control over. And so that kind of stuff, when those things come out, it really is disheartening. Not so much because I think I kind of have a thick skin at this point, but it really bothers me because it makes it seem like that's normal. And it's not normal for people to, make fun and ridicule and, criticize things that you have no control over. And it makes it harder for us to try to recruit sane, wonderful people that are, parents in our district to be on the school board, because you look at all the other stuff and think, why? Why would I want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Did
can't.
we lose you, Crystal? We lost your audio.
Again, we lost your audio.
All right. We'll try it again. Not a problem. It's technology issue.
Just keep coming and going for like 5 minutes.
So when we're talking about education and talking about the district, what has been some of your greatest challenges as a governing board member? We know you have a massive experience being the president as well. So talk about some of those things, because I know some seats are coming available this year to run. And most definitely, we're asking for people who is passionate about systemic change to, how about you get a seat at the table of the governing board where you can really make some serious changes at policy level. So it's going to be very important. I know we look at elections, we look at presidents and governors and maybe mayors, but then after that, it's like city council, governing boards. We just don't take that serious. But I think having the right or the wrong person in that seat of power can be detrimental for our children and our families. So talk about some of those things.
Well, I just want to say what the president does, really, I know it entertains us, but it doesn't affect us nearly as much as our school board members and our county supervisors and our mayors. And I heard once that only 14% of voters actually complete the whole ballot.
Wow.
86% of people just fill up the top couple of ones just for the president, right? And then they mail it in. And that's, I mean, the positions that affect our daily lives are the people at the bottom of the ballot. And that's where we really have to do our research and connect with one another and find out what those values are, so that you have school board members who value social workers, who value, a diverse workforce, and who value feeding kids during a pandemic, right? Like that, it's so important to know who you're voting for in all of the ballot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think that we have to, unfortunately, it's always a moving target. It's not like you can ever say, okay, this is our budget this year, and this is what we need to look to balance and look forward to, budgeting for the next year. Because as soon as I feel like we are in a good rhythm, our enrollment is up, then they say, you know what, we're going to current year funding, which means the previous year we were in a really good spot, and that's what we look forward to. Then they go to current year. And so for districts like ours that are inner city, that are have a high percentage of children of color, a lot of transient population stuff happening, our districts are the ones that get hit the worst. Because when you go to current year, for example, if we do it now for current year funding, we're automatically down 1,300 kids. Wow. And we don't even know what the rest of it looks like, because we have issues with our kinder. So how can you balance that? And then you get a situation where you have some funding that comes to you for capital monies or federal funds that come directly to school districts. And then the state will decide to withhold that same amount of money on the other end because we already got it. So it's one of those things where you're like, those funds were supposed to be directed for crisis or for a specific initiative, but our state will withhold that same amount of money. So if, my dad in Congress and his colleagues are like, we're going to fight for this and we're going to give each school district $7 million. Hooray. So we start to plan for that. And then our state and our governor will say, but you already got that 7 million. So I'm going to hold the 7 million back. Wow. So you never, and that's the kind of, and then those individual funds that he has discretion on, he gives more money to private, and what looks like private, not unified districts. And so, not only do we have that situation, but we also have charters that can access money that we can't access.
That's right.
It's never an even playing field, and that's the real.
So, believe it or not, a lot of people don't know. So I'm probably asking this question for a lot of citizens in Tucson. But people don't know how are schools funded? How does the district pay for things? I think this is probably a lot of people probably wondered that, but just never said it. So I'm going to ask it for our people in Tucson and the TUSD family. Uh, how does that work? Where do you guys get your money to pay bills and pay for staff and fund education? What that process look like from a governing board's perspective?
Are you on, Crystal? No. Okay. I was like, okay. So we get some federal funds, some Title I, some entitlement money. We have some based on taxes and the tax base, and then we get some funding directly from the state. And then you have. I like to equate it to. I have a bunch of credit cards, and what I really need is food, but I only have a gas card. That's kind of how our budget is. So there's certain things that you can only spend on certain areas. And so we do have money, let's say, for professional development for teachers, but then that money is restricted to there's certain areas that you can do that and others that you can't. And so that's why you have in some districts, you have people that they don't seem to have as much of an issue with, let's say, passing a bond, because their tax base is comfortable doing that, as opposed to a district like TUSD. You have 220 square miles, and some areas of town are like, I cannot think of having to give any more money for taxes. And then you have other sides of town that are willing to do it. And so that to me is the biggest challenge.
Wow.
You on, Crystal?
I am, and I had that muted because when the garbage trucks go by, it's like my dog's lives, and I won't take that away from them, because if we're going to enjoy anything in COVID, we're going to enjoy the garbage trucks. So, and I just want to say that it kind of backs with this, as well as what the previous question was, is we have to remember there's a concerted effort to privatize public education. We saw what happened in New Orleans. We're watching what's happened in Puerto Rico after both Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Maria. And there is a project out there to privatize public education. And so with COVID, with this crisis nationwide, we have to watch and be very, very studied in understanding how decisions are made to fund or not fund local public schools, because there's a vision. It's not my vision. I think our government, absolutely, our taxes should provide for a high quality, equal public school system across our nation, and healthcare system for that matter. Those are my political values. But we really need to make sure people are informed and watching and seeing how decisions are being made right now.
Yeah.
And who gets money and who doesn't. And really watch the enrollment, right? And which systems, public or private, and charters being a blended model between public and private, but really which ones are flourishing after this and which ones aren't. And that wasn't by chance. That's by design.
So good stuff. So we're running out of time. So there's a couple more things I want to hit, and I want to close out with Edelita talking about her run for
supervisor.
A supervisor, and we want to help her get there. So if you're in her district, don't talk about it, be about it, support her, go help put some signs up, go do whatever you need to do, right? Because a lot of people don't know it's a lot of work running. So we're going to hit that in a minute. One of the final questions I wanted to ask you. Now, I'm from Flint, Michigan, so I'm born and raised from the hood on the north side, okay? Graduated from NW, which is Northwestern, and I know what it was like, coming up, in hard times, seeing a lot of poverty, seeing a lot of my friends I went to school with are dead or in prison, just being honest, and I did not want to be a statistic. Didn't want my children to be growing up in anything like that. Why is it important for children to get a quality education, especially poor children and Black and brown kids? Why do they need an education? How do we break the cycle of generational trauma and generational poverty. How do we break those cycles? Why, from a governing board's issue of you're fighting tirelessly, fighting for a champion for education? Let's talk about our children and our kids of color. Why is it important for that demographic to break that cycle?
Education opens that door. Education gives them an opportunity that they can't have. And I think that when we talk about making sure that our babies have early childhood education, it's not because it's not babysitting. It's I want you to be ready to go to kinder. I want you to be able to identify letters, numbers. And for some people, they weren't taught it when they were little. And so as a parent, they don't know that that's what they're supposed to do. And so I think a lot of times we have that issue where we have, unfortunately, a lot of people who don't know the value of education. Now I'm having technical issues, so I'm going to let Crystal do that while I plug in this phone. I'll be right.
All right, Crystal, you come on with it. Okay, she went out. I think we lost your audio. That's okay. Thank you guys. Everybody's coming on. I'm seeing a lot of people coming on, showing us some love and some support. I even see Sheriff Chris Nanos is watching on us. And so thank you, sir. And Ace, I see you from Rising Star. You on with us. My auntie Sharon, all the way from Flint, Michigan, is on with us. Cousin Pamela from Flint, Michigan is on. I'm trying to see who else. Let's see, Kiana was on. Yeah, my auntie Quetta from Atlanta, Georgia. Wow, okay. All right, guys. So it makes me feel good. Yeah, so we were talking about the importance of education and how we break those cycles. So you're talking about a comprehensive early childhood educational experience.
Mm-hmm. But it is also, you have to have quality teachers in all of our schools. You have to have relevant curriculum, because I think that's something that differentiates why am I going to get excited about that stuff? And so that's why I think that it's important for us to have something that equalizes and gives everyone an opportunity. And I really, truly believe that that is why public education is under attack. It absolutely is, because it does give people an opportunity. I mean, if you think about it, my dad's talked about it all the time. He's like, I have 2 immigrant parents. Neither one ever spoke English. And I'm a member of Congress. How does that happen? It's not in isolation. It's because he had people looking out for him. He had teachers that cared. That's the difference. That is the absolute difference, and the only reason why people are able to advance that are coming from situations of, generational poverty. And that's the only thing, none of us are going to be handed a $1 million check when we turn 18. That's not happening. That's not the reality for the vast majority of us. And so the way we equalize that playing field is public education.
All right, Crystal.
Well, and you have so many people whose interest is in investing and making money, right? And they see education as an opportunity to make money. And so if that's an investment opportunity, and that's what their value is and what they're voting for. And
It's that I don't know what that is.
Yeah, no, we're gonna figure it out. But let's shift a little bit because we're running out of time. I see Uncle Lump on the air with us. Good to see you, sir. Nikki Douglas, good to see you. Let's talk about you're running for Pima County Board of Supervisors, right? You're shifting modes from the governing board to the Board of Supervisors. So.
Well, I'm adding modes because
adding.
Yeah, I'm absolutely committed to finishing my term with TYC. Yeah, so I can do both, and we have legal opinion that I can. And so, I think what happened is my dear friend Richard Lias passed away, and we'd already had a campaign kickoff. I'd already, obviously endorsed him, and then he passed away, and it was, I got a call from his wife Emily and his daughter Luz, and said, you got to do it, because we need to make sure that we protect our environment with that seat, because that seat, my dad had it before, has always been the one that really pushes the environmental protections and protections for employees. And I believe that that is really important, and one of the reasons that I'm running. But I also think that in light of what's happening with COVID, it really highlights the role of Pima County. I mean, Pima County Health Department is a number one responsibility for our community, and giving us that guidance. I mean, the mayor is looking for that guidance from Pima County Health Department, and I really feel that they've not done a good service to us in really explaining what the situation is and really being incredibly transparent. And so that's one of the big reasons. Protecting our environment, protecting our employees, those are all reasons that I'm running. And I feel like I've had to deal with some battles in TUSD, so I'm ready to be a strong advocate and can do that. And I wanna represent this district. District 5 is a district that I've lived in my whole life. And so it's not like I'm new to this area and I moved over here. This is where I've been. This is my community.
And what do you think, what do you think the governing boards, the supervisors, what the board looks like with Adelita at the seat of the table? Like, whoa, my goodness. Like, what does that look like?
You know what's interesting to me is I was trying to think back and I was looking it up to see if there was any Latina on that board before. And before Ben Villegas was appointed, there was no Latina on that board.
Okay.
So I think that that's important. It's an important voice, just like it's an important voice on any body, any governing body, any committee, to have a voice of a perspective of a person of color, a woman of color, someone who's thinking about it in a different kind of mindset. I think that that is invaluable. And if nothing else, at least puts out ideas. Like, why don't we think about this thing before we do something? And I feel like Betty, in the short time that she's been there, has had an opportunity to really put some ideas out there that other people weren't bringing up. And Sharon Bronson is also bringing a perspective that I think has been really valuable, because, you know, they're the only two with masks. Everyone else is acting like it's business as usual up until the last board meeting. And they're the only ones that have, like, you know, that are trying to make sure that they're safe, not only for themselves and their families, but making sure everyone else around them is.
Awesome. So, Crystal, I know you guys are like sisters from another mother. And from your perspective, why should District 5 elect Adelita to the Board of Supervisors? From your perspective and working with her and working together as a team, from your perspective, why?
I hope this technology lets me finish. And I just want to say that I haven't given up. I keep coming back. I
appreciate your persistence.
First of all, I want to say it's important that people understand that she can serve in both roles, because you don't make any money as a governing board member, right? And so it's absolutely legal. Across the state, I've met so many board members who are also city council members, who are also legislators. So that's absolutely legal.
Oh, you just went up.
She really was on roll, though. Thank you, Crystal.
Yes. Tell her to come back so we can let her close out. So, Adelita, what do you need? What do you need from the community?
I need help. I need our yard signs are in, and anyone who lives in District 5, we're in a really kind of great corner for me to put a sign up. I would love that help. It's adelitaforsupervisor.com, and you can just click a link and we'll deliver signs to you. I need people to help deliver, so they could do that. And really a lot of social media, word of mouth, donations if people can. And then I know that this is a really difficult time for a lot of people. And so any, $1, $2 is going to make a difference. Every yard sign costs $2.50. So if you do the math, yeah, I know. So give me $5, I can get 2 yard signs. And so that's kind of what I'm doing. Is it's really going to be a grassroots effort. It's going to be very different. We're going to be talking about going out and having like no contact lit drops. You're not going to knock on anyone's door, but you're going to go in your own neighborhood, write a little note on that lit and kind of leave it for your notes, and we can provide the list of everyone that's due if that's something that you're comfortable doing. And again, there's no contact. So one of the things that I'm providing our volunteers is a mask that says Vote Grijalva. It's like everything that we're trying to do is keeping it really, really as safe as we possibly can. And then, with signatures, when we were doing petition signatures, that was a moment that I could not have tried to orchestrate if I wanted to. I mean, we had over 1,500 signatures in a week in the middle of a pandemic. It was really hungry.
So, Crystal, let's get you back
I
in.
gotta say, I've never met anybody who fights like Adelita Grijalva. Fights for the right thing, fights for kids, fights for the community. So
Yeah.
that's why she needs to be elected, because she's a fighter. I've learned so much from her, and I respect so much. And then she fights the right way, right? I mean, it's not
Yeah.
dirty. It
Yeah.
is out loud, and it is with what you want to see somebody, how you want to see somebody advocate for you, right? That is Adelita Grijalva. And so I think it's so
Thanks.
critical that she sits in
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
she's going to do great. Guys, thank you for your time. I think this is great. And this is the first, but certainly won't be the last. I probably would like to try to get us back before school start sometime in the summer. Have you come back? I'm sure we have more information, maybe more recommendation from the CDC or from the state as far as guidance. And we can come on the show and talk about that. But I close out, want to say, I want to extend my gratitude to you guys. A lot of times people see my national work, but they don't know really where it comes from. But I just wanted to let you know, thank you for believing in me and believing in my work. And you guys took a chance on me to allow me to do some of this comprehensive work in the school district and with others
You made it
alongside
easy.
that.
You made
Uh-oh.
it easy. You made it easy.
That's true. But you also push the envelope, and I think that that's important, because you have ideas that you bring along like-minded people, and then people that are not quite like-minded, they get there. Eventually, we all get there. So I think that that's important.
Yeah,
But I would like to say before we leave, if anybody would like more information about what's going on in TUSD, it's right on the website, tusd1.org. It has graduation information and registration. And then for the county, same thing. You just Google Pima County COVID response, and a lot of information is there. So I encourage people to check that out.
can citizens in Tucson uh, can they reach out to you through email as far as concerns or ideas? Can you throw out your emails so if people are listening, they can get your email and send those out?
Sure, it's adelitagrijalva@gmail.com, or Facebook is really good. Facebook Messenger, either. I have a couple of pages.
Awesome. Crystal?
Crystal is Crystal Ann Foster, Facebook. And she also has her TUSD, crystal.foster@tusd1.org.
All right, all right. So yeah, guys in the community that's been listening in, I've seen some of your comments. Shoot some of those comments to Adelina and Crystal, and create that dialogue so we can uh, have those conversations and get your ideas out on the table. So Crystal, yeah, we were closing out saying,
Thank
what
you
was
for my email, Adelita. I could read your lips.
okay. Now that lets you know y'all been working together too long.
Thank you for letting me join you, and I'm so sorry about the technology. I really am apologizing for that, but you just let me seamlessly jump in and out, and you just never skipped a beat. So I thank you. Thank you for highlighting TUSD. And we're going to have graduation programs all weekend, Saturday and Sunday on KOLD. So please check out our seniors.
I forgot one more question. Wakefield. Tell us about Wakefield and the great opportunity.
I am so excited about Wakefield. And so we're actually registering sixth graders. So the first year is going to be only sixth, and then they'll move into, those sixth graders will move up to seventh, and then we'll recruit more sixth graders, and then those will go to eighth, seventh, and then we'll move. And so by the time my son, who's going into fourth grade, is ready for sixth grade, he will fill out that little chunk. And my oldest son, Lito, is going to be attending Wakefield. They're going to have one-to-one technology. It's going to be beautiful. And really, that was my high school. So I mean, my middle school and my high school is Pueblo, right? And so that was the feeder for Pueblo. And the reason why I think it's important that we open that, and I'm so grateful for the board to support it, is because we are at a capacity at all of our other middle schools. Our side of town is growing, and I think that we need to be responsive to that. We don't want to lose our kids to non-TUSD schools just because they don't get their first or second choice. And so Wakefield is going to be a really great option, and I anticipate that it will be great. It's going to be a great school.
And people think we opened it just for Adelita, and I'm so glad you that, because that's not true. Our
It's not.
Southwest quadrant is growing. We need schools. We actually need a high school in the Southwest quadrant, right? So we absolutely need more space for our kids in the southwest side of town, and so that was why the decision. I mean, it shouldn't have been closed 10 years ago.
In the first place.
Knew that was going to happen, and so that was a political move. I'll say it. And now we have people who are paying attention to the demographic needs of our community, and we're reopening a middle school there.
Well, guys, thank you for your time. I think this has been great, and we're just looking for some great things to be coming back with us here with Higher Ground with Dr. Holt, and we have our special guest, Adelita Crystal from the Governing Board from TUSD, and we're just excited that you decided to be with us, and so we're looking forward to having you come back and hoping and giving your thoughts and prayers as Adelita to get into that seat. And so we expect some great things. So again, thank you guys for being with us, and have a great day.
Thank you. Great music. Great music.